Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 3 for 1 Sky Fantasy Podcast and Fantasy Football Hub as we look ahead to Game Week 27, but also Brentford versus Man City this evening, which has been long awaited for the supposed pile-on. Will we be piling on? Will we not? We were going to talk it all through now. Welcome, Paul. How has your Sky weekend been so far?
That's been pretty good, actually. I feel a bit more energized than I have done in previous pods. You're giving me like a snarly look, but you've been doing well, and you're a significant jump ahead of me. So I don't know what that looks for, but
You caught you
I
caught me up a bit over the weekend, and I can't work out how.
oh cool. I'm
You've
happy
made
to
up
be
17 points on me since Thursday, and I don't know how. But we can say that for
I
another
don't
time.
I don't know how either. I think I've got a lot of highly owned
Yeah.
players and so. But yeah, I feel a bit more energized now. A rank jump can do that, I guess.
Absolutely, and it's crazy. I'm finding it particularly in this format and Telegraph at the moment. Don't think I'm making any particularly smart or insightful moves, but it's the organic rise is starting now, and it's incredible. I can't remember where I was. I was like 800 or 900 at overhaul. I have used a transfer, which is a bit of a waste actually. I brought in Bowen for Saliba on Thursday. I mean, I've got like a tiny gain, but not much. But
So I think this is part. I think that's part of the reason. Like that's some of what caught us up because on Thursday I didn't make a move and just kept the captaincy on Solanke. And even though maybe after him scoring getting all these points in the first 3 minutes, I was perhaps disappointed after that. But
yeah.
not making moves and then taking the captaincy off a player that's scoring well. Yeah, I've been pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I only did it. It was I didn't really mind. It was only, what was it, a difference of like 5 points with one end of the world because I did captain Bowen, but obviously the the transfer itself is a bit of a waste in terms of I did it for Saliba. I'm probably going to move Bowen on now this evening because West Ham and Bowen just look pretty
Yeah,
awful.
blunt.
So yeah, but other than that, like I say, I've gone up from I think 850th at overhaul to 584. It's not. It's like it's like a massive jump, right? But there's only one transfer used, and as you
That's
say,
good.
you've made a pretty good rank rise. You've nearly halved your rank, and again,
Yeah.
you haven't made any moves at all of you. So that
I made one yesterday, which yeah, I'm happy to chat through. It's been one of those weeks as well. We talk about often, and it doesn't always come off obviously, but that patience is key. We were talking about the City moves last week, and a couple that I'd contemplated involved João Pedro coming out, and I would have
you were
moved
talking about that on
João Pedro
Thursday, didn't you?
onto
Yeah,
KDB, taking the captaincy off Rodri, put on KDB, and then I wouldn't have
crazy.
got Pedro 7 points as well, so it would have hurt me twice, and that's why I was really keen to wait until tonight to do any moves, knowing that I can't end up in a deficit from a track. Well, I can. Somebody gets sent off, but it's hard to end up in a deficit in a position like that. Yeah, I'd said to you, especially with the Liverpool game getting rearranged, I realised I was going to need a captain for the Liverpool Luton game.
Yeah.
And the only hop on point for me to get a fixture gain was yesterday. So I was actually out and didn't watch the Arsenal Liverpool game. I moved on Van Dijk. I thought it was just a sensible play based on his ownership, etc. And I was pretty happy to come in to realise he got passing bonus because obviously I would end up with zero from the
He
move.
smashed. He smashed as well the passing bonus. Just
Yeah.
a shame he can't defend. It's, best defender in the world makes yet another absolute howler. Do you know? I'm convinced. Right. I'm sorry, Liverpool fans. Van Dijk cares more about looking good than anything else. That thing where he could have just headed the ball away for the second goal, he decided, no, I'm going to show my strength here. He could have just nodded it to like Canate, just gone like that. Done. Oh no. He's got to be the big man, haven't he? And then he makes Alisson look foolish, even though Alisson should have been in that position in the first place.
We'll wait for the pod where we do the forensic analysis on Spurs' defending. Coming
Yeah,
to you soon.
no. But I would say I don't think I don't say Spurs defense are the best in the world. But anyway, Van Dijk again showing that he is not the best defender in the world. Anyway, yeah, interesting. And obviously this evening the main chat is going to be around Man City, Jonathan Maloney. It was not Alisson's mistake, buddy. I am sorry. I don't know what match you were watching. He just said it was Alisson's mistake. Alisson came out and booted Van Dijk.
7 minutes in, and you're fighting with the viewers
I'm
already.
not fighting with the beauty. I got an incredible relationship with John Maloney, but I do think his his comment there is absolute horseshit. Saying it was Alisson's mistake. Alisson came out and booted Van Dijk because Martinelli bumped Van Dijk into Alisson. Anyway, let's go on. Lay of the land, and obviously the main talking point this evening is Man City have got 5 pretty glorious fixtures, it must be said, in the next, 19 days. They've got a 5 for 3 over lots of teams. They've got a 5 for 2 over lots of teams. And, we talked about it a lot last week. It's been talked about for weeks. Could this be the pylon time? It's just worth saying that I've just seen a few tweets. Obviously, this is all unconfirmed. Obviously, please wait until you see the lineups yourself. But the tweets, right? I've got a team here. I don't know how. I've got a team here for you. Edison, Walker, Diaz, Ake, and Gvardiol, Rodri, Foden, Alvarez, KDB, Bernardo, and Haaland. That is the leaked team I have been given. No Duco.
That again, but say that again, but slowly.
Edison, Edison, Walker, Diaz, Ake, Gvardiol.
Yep.
So no, and this I was looking this morning. There's 7 defenders it could be, right? Because if you put Lewis in there as well, Lewis, Akanji, and Stones are not in there, who could play multiple, positions in there. Rodri, Foden, Alvarez, De Bruyne, Bernardo, and Haaland. So it looks like a sort of 4-1-4-1. All the big guns starting there. So very interesting. Please, it's a person who it's been shared who's reasonably confident. But obviously, wait till 7 o'clock to see the actual team sheets. But obviously, it's good to have a clue now what the team is. So I suppose firstly, Paul.
Yeah, let's. I always wanted to start with a tweet that I put out this morning on City. So if you just bear with me 1 second. Yeah, so I've asked the question: what's people's thoughts on how many players that they're going to start with, or what's anticipated based on what the lineup was. So on the votes, 2 max was 18%, 3 was 44%, 4 was 29%, and 5 plus was 9%. So, basically, if we're thinking about this, if you're starting with 3 City assets and they all scored evenly, you're going to go down in rank most likely tonight. So bear that in mind. I'm not suggesting that that's a reason for stocking up on City, but there's a good chance if you don't have more than 3 City assets, you're going to be disappointed with a rank drop tonight, depending on who you get, obviously. I think Haaland's ownership's, if everybody in the top 1,000 was engaged and had transfers left, which the second part is more of a big if, I think the move's going to be to Haaland, right? Especially with the fixture gain and the lineup being seen. I'd expect his ownership to be up probably 80% plus. I think he'll be the most captained player. Rodri's obviously very popular. And then you've got reasonably popular players outside of that. So you've got Alvarez, KDB, a bit of Foden already, and a bit of Ederson already. Everyone else, I think, is kind of middling more on ownership outside of that. So you'll be adding to that effectively. I think if you're in a position, most people have Rodri and are bringing in Haaland. So even if you've got those 2 players, even with the captaincy on Haaland, I fancy a decent rank drop tonight. If you brought in the 3rd player, you probably hold ranks, especially if that player outperformed others like KDB or Foden. If you went for them, or Ederson kept a clean sheet, you might level peg or go up a little bit. And then when you add more on top of that, is when you're going to see increases. So bear that in mind. Not to get too disappointed if that's going to be be your tactic, but that's probably the lay of the land.
Yeah, and in terms of those individual and joint ownership, so at the moment in the top 1K in terms of goalkeeper or defensive assets, 33% effective sort of ownership across that in defence. So at the moment, only a third of managers have either got sort of Edison, Walker, or someone of that ilk. In the mid to forward line, it's 190%. So already everyone in the top one, sorry, not everyone, average in the top 1K have got nearly 2 attacking Man City players already. So it's and that's what kind of adds up to the 224%, which you can see on the screen for effective ownership of Man City players. So at the moment, I've got one. So we've got a bit of thinking to kind of do here, but I think it's good to get that context right on, on just what the lay of the land looks like in terms of what everyone else is going to have. At the moment, most of the people have got between 2 and 3 Man City players can potentially add to it. It looks like all the big hitters, all the popular players are going to be starting, right? So that 224% will effectively likely all be in play just to start off with, without anyone else. So that's, as you say, Paul, that's a really good kind of place to start. So in terms of players, can I just kind of chuck in what I'm thinking at the first? Obviously, it's team dependent, right? Don't have Tony either. We haven't mentioned him. It may be worth mentioning. He's also got really good fixtures. But at the moment, I've only got Rodri. I kind of waited till this weekend, lots of weekend games was over to kind of make a decision on stuff. And I think my kind of plans are to bring in Haaland. I'm going to bring in Edison. So I've got Kaminsky of Luton, who has been okay. He's got me in total, 13 points for the 3 games. It's probably more than I was expecting. But I do want a bit of the City defence. I think Edison is the cheapest route in there. Been stung by him a million times. I thoroughly expect not to get.
Yeah, so I haven't.
I did last year. That was the difference between us.
I owned them at the tail end of last season, but when I look back at the winning team for the at the final hurdle, I had him in it, and he'll always be there, so I can celebrate him from that position.
Yeah. He's like, everyone blames Edison, but it's not Edison, because he doesn't make individual mistakes. They just teams just manage to get into a position through the way that Man City play that they can score the odd goal. It's normally 1 shot per game or 2 shots per game. It's frustrating, but I don't think they're like amazing options in this period anyway. We've all got, a lot of us have got a lot of transfers, probably between sort of 25 to 32 sort of transfers left. It seems reasonable. The other one I'm contemplating is Ake. He seems to be nailed. Nailed is the wrong word, right? Because I don't think anyone is nailed. I do think we'll see a sort of lot of rotation. He's played 6 90s now on the trot. This will be his 7th straight. Should he plays 90. Appreciate Stones has been injured. And things. So, I don't for a minute think that Ake will play all 5, but he's very versatile. I think he's probably one of the few that can play left back as well if they decide to rest Gvardiol. And I think also he's got really good attacking intent as well. And the other one is Walker, who I think I counted. He had some nearly 30 consecutive starts before he was rested last week. He has had personal issues on the pitch. We don't know whether they're going to start, actively rotating now, or whether it was just, let's just give him his rest kind of while we can, with a reasonably comfortable fixture against Burnley. So they're my kind of current thoughts. Not set yet on kind of what to do. I'd definitely be bringing Haaland and Edison. I think the defenders are a bit more kind of up in the air for me. So what's your current sort of thinking?
And no midfielder for consideration.
I'm not really. I'm not. I think I'd prefer Alvarez out of all of them, but he's a forward, and and obviously we've kind of got, I'm assuming most of us have got kind of Watkins, potentially Solanke, or someone of that ilk up front, and Foden and De Bruyne. They're just, for me, they're just not consistent on bonus. And I know they can score goals. I know they can get assists. I know they can haul any time, but they I know one of them's going to smash it this evening. It's fairly obvious. But in terms of other fixtures fall as well,
the volumes. I'm considering the volumes just now, like the volumes of games to get in. Is there an opportunity here with one of them? So I'm looking, and I know we're going to talk a bit about this, but I'm looking at the players that I would take out.
And this is really important as well, right?
Yeah. So one of the questions, so just now, I think I'm going to get Ederson. I think I'm going to get those two players in that you've mentioned as well. I'm not going to do any of the defenders though. I've still got Saliba on my team, and I don't want to be going to. I could take Saliba out for one of them, but I'm looking at who I think I'll be captaining over the next few weeks, and then try to work my way back.
Yeah.
And then if there's a player that I'm not going to captain and I'm not worried about effective ownership, then I'm thinking of taking the punt maybe on KDB. I'm like you, I'm not a massive advocate. I don't think I'll never give him the captaincy. I'll always be captain Haaland now anyway when City are playing, and I'd prefer to captain Rodri over him as well. But it's just like where at this point in time, money isn't a massive factor. So I'm not really looking at points per million or points per million per game, which is two metrics I look at when I'm utilising all the money in squads usually. I'm just thinking pure volume of games, and then it was a perfect hop off City after you're getting these 5 games as well for a hop on to. I think it's just before the Wolves Sheffield United game where I would pick up my the player for the single game day at that point, and if I take out Areola for Ederson, I'm not going to have a captaincy for the West Ham Brentford game either. So it's not even, I don't even need to pick up a Wolves Sheffield United player necessarily. I can pick up a Bowen, or I can pick up Tony in the following game for single day captaincy. I'm just thinking City play 5 times in that period of time, and I think that I'm thinking that that would be including tonight's game, 5 games. So I think I'm going to take the punt on KDB. So it's who comes out for me, and then looking at next Sunday's games is the one that I've got a real focus on. So Sunday, 11th of February, West Ham play Arsenal, and Aston Villa play Man United. If that's in front of you, who do you think amongst the engaged managers, who do you think's the captaincy of choice in that game?
I personally think just based off this weekend, it's been proven again that while Saka is consistent, he just hasn't been explosive, is he? He's not massively explosive. Whereas Watkins has just proven how explosive he can be, and Villa are on form. They're playing at home. United, even yesterday, I think the clean sheet very much flattered them. I didn't watch the game, but from what I read, West Ham could have easily had a couple of goals and should have had a couple of goals. So I think it flattered them. So I think due to ownership, it'll be Watkins.
Yeah. So I agree, and this is why I'm now veering towards making the move to bring KDB in for either Saliba or Saka with an extra transfer, because those two players weren't making way for any of the City assets for me anyway. So that's where I'm veering just now.
They do have
which would take
Burnley away a few days later on the same day that City play Chelsea.
Well, we saw Chelsea's defending yesterday, which made me think it's now a no contest, and that I'd be captaining Haaland that day anyway, and there'd be no consideration for captaining Saka now.
You know what? I can see me making like 5 transfers tonight.
This is just the way that I've been thinking about it, because often it's oh, we need to get these players in, but it's who we're removing, and then just working that through, because Arsenal then play, I think it's Newcastle at home, but then City play that day, so I'd captain a City asset, and then Arsenal don't play till Monday the 4th of March. And I'm not even saying that I would necessarily move the City player back onto Arsenal, because Arsenal play last that game week, not just after City. You can move any player back onto Arsenal at that point.
How many games do you think the KDB, just for example, plays out with this fire? Because I think this is important.
I've thought about this as well, and what I would want from my asset is to start 4 games out of the 5.
Yeah, I think
he starts, and I think he starts 4.
I do as well. Assuming his fitness, then I kind of agree there. I would also, I think we said this last week, because I think last week you were a touch more conservative, and I was probably a touch more optimistic than I am now. But I did say, like, how often you're going to get Man City having a 5-for-2 over teams? Like, it may not happen. Well, it probably won't happen again this season. And we're always talking about edge. How can I gain an advantage and stuff? And we're always talking about, going for dodgy captaincies. right? Whereas this is the edge now, isn't it? This is the edge on saving your transfers, is piling in on the best team in the league who have got the most fixtures by a mile in a very short period of time. And, you're going to need a lot of luck. You're going to need them to all start, or most of them to start the kind of the 4 out of 5. Some will probably start 5 out of 5. You're going to need them to have to stick a couple of hide-ins in there as well. But the fixtures are pretty decent, right? They play Brentford twice. They play Bournemouth, who Liverpool just whipped 4-0. Chelsea just lost 4-1 at home to Wolves. They're complete and utter disarray. And home to Everton is, while that's not as easy, it's pretty decent. So I think I'm making 5 transfers.
And Brentford, Brentford come into this consideration as well, right? Because they play tonight. They don't miss out on the Black Game Week. Like, they play and then they double as well. I'm less cool on Tony, and it's not just because of the fixtures. Yes, you're getting a fixture volume as well, so you can certainly make that argument. Mine's is more that it's a better hop-on point for Tony if you go there on Monday the 26th of February. And I know that you'll have missed one extra game in there, but in that period of time, they'll have played City twice, Liverpool once, and I think it's Wolves is the other game in there. Wolves are on form as well. So it's not that I don't think that Tony couldn't return twice in there and gets 4 games in that. It's where's the next hop-on point, and do I want to rock into Monday the 26th of February, and for whatever reason he might miss out. I think that my opportunity to get him with a nice fixture run is later on, and I'd be okay missing out, knowing that I'm not going to miss out a captaincy opportunity on him as well.
I'm glad I didn't make a transfer yesterday now or on the weekend, because I'm making 5 tonight.
Are you really?
I think so. I think I was hot on it last week, and now you're hot on it. But the more and more I think about it, it's like,
I mean, I'm hot on it, but I'm still doing less than what you were touting last week. So
I don't know.
I'm not doing the defender moves. Like,
that's where a lot of the points are. Like, I prefer the defender move to
if they keep clean sheets. I'd be happy with my Ederson. I'd be happy knowing how City defend. I'd be happy with just my Ederson clean sheet if they kept one tonight. You get 9 points.
The only thing is like with Brighton, for example, they're not going to keep a clean sheet against Spurs, right? So there's a pure 3-for-1 for Man City over Brighton, and Brighton are away to Spurs, right? So they're not going to keep a clean sheet in that game.
I'm not cool on these 3-for-1s.
But after that, this is the problem. After that, Brighton go on a really good run, so it's like you're taking them out to put them back. Exactly, yeah, that's the thing.
It's 2 transfers for 2 games where your City player might get 10 points, and that makes it worth the value of a transfer probably. But I'm less cool on that, and I'm less cool on a couple of other touted 6-for-3s and 5-for-2s.
I'm not. I do agree with that.
It all depends on who you're then moving to, and you don't want to be doing it straight back to the same club either. It just doesn't feel right. I don't think.
Or what you can do with the Brighton defenders is daisy chain them out. So, for example, Solanke goes Fulham, Newcastle. You can then daisy chain Solanke back out for Dunk, for example, which works really well actually, because Brighton play on Sunday the 18th.
So certainly a few opportunities, and there's going to be a lot of transfers get used over the next month as well, which is definitely worth considering. Like, when you're, as I say, we're not going to go into who's the best asset and such like that on this pod, but if you look at Monday the 19th of February, Everton, Crystal Palace, I can't imagine many people owning them, and I'm not saying that you need to cover that either. Then you come up to Sunday the 25th of February, Wolves, Sheffield United, Monday the 26th of February, West Ham, Brentford. Those 2 feel more like you'd want transfers. If everyone's offloading Arsenal to go into Man City, then you're going to Monday the 4th of March, Sheffield United at home to Arsenal. And that's before all these extra games get rearranged later down the line as well.
The only one that falls within that 5-game run for Man City there is Palace and Everton. Sheffield United and Wolves go straight after, right? So that's KDB off to Cunha, right? And they've had their 5 City. This is the point. This is very congested period of 5 games where if Man City do really well, and it's a complete and utter season changer. I mean, you're going to gain anyway, purely down to the volume of fixtures. You'd be ridiculously unlucky to finish down on the transfers. You're going to be up anyway. It's just by how much, and it's just by whether it can impact your season so much that it puts you in a spot there where you think you can go on to kind of where you want to be. But this, for me, we get asked this question, don't we? How many times? Every pod in the first half of the season. How can I be different? How can I? And our answers, or my answer, is always the same. Wait for the 4-for-1s and the 5-for-2s, and that is when you do it.
This is certainly how you can be different, because you're gambling. Like, for me, you're gambling on the city defenders, and I know that you make the point about Ake starting 7 in a row, and I think Vadiol's something similar as well. So there's merit in it, but you and I know that it's still a gamble.
Of course.
That's the play. Whereas if it was obvious, it would just be the thing to do, right? Like if it was Arsenal, you know that 3 out the back 4, possibly even 4 out the back 4 would be all sensible moves.
Yeah, it's interesting. Let's just talk quickly. Amandeep has just reminded me, actually, it's a really good point, that Liverpool have also had the extra fixture against Luton put in, and Salah, we haven't heard any updates on his fitness. I think last week we heard he's still going to be out for a couple of weeks. He could be back for Luton, right? So this is just something to bear in mind as well, around the budget. I mean, we're all swimming in cash at the moment, right? But very, very soon, Salah is going to come back and want to chomp up a lot of that budget. And if we do go all in on Man City, for example, even though you can have outs, right? You could, if you're desperate, you could do KDB back off to Salah if you go for KDB, for example, whatever. But yeah, what's your thoughts on Liverpool and Salah?
I like I say, I had to bring in a Liverpool player. I didn't have to, but I brought in Van Dijk because of that rearranged game, because I knew that I was going to need a captain for it. I'm not adding an extra Liverpool player in. It's going to be hard pressed if you come up to that Liverpool Luton game and Salah's starting, right? I completely appreciate that, but I just think right after, like, you'd be bringing him in to then lose him straight away. I might do that if I've got sat with an injured player, because I know that I'm only using 1 extra transfer than what I would be anyway.
Yep.
But if I don't and I'm taking out a playing player, I'd be kind of loath to do it, knowing that the following week they don't play. They do play Nottingham Forest away on the following Saturday, but then the following week, it's not been announced yet, but Liverpool play Man City. I imagine that moves to the Sunday. And then you've got an extra game of whoever you've got to then move back onto a City player then. A Liverpool player then. So you'd be using 2 transfers to bring in and take back out.
You are. But you also said last week, if you remember, that you'd maybe, well, I'll paraphrase, but you felt you were kind of maybe awash with transfers, and you wished you'd used a couple a bit earlier to.
Yeah, I think there was more obvious 3-for-1s and 3-for-nothings running up to the overhaul that I could have taken advantage of, and it was less so situations like this where it's a single game in isolation.
Yeah,
I think.
Okay, interesting.
There is definitely opportunities. I think I should have used a couple more before.
Let's just have a quick look at the top 1K ownership then. Cole Palmer, 93%. The boy is just an absolute animal, and absolutely superb. There is probably a good opportunity to take him out on Sunday 18th. So that's another one. I talked about moving Solanke off. You could also move off Palmer. But obviously he is an enabler. So there's all cash thoughts in here. But if you do want a daisy chain back, if you're thinking of taking out, like I am, Dunk for Ake, just as an example, you can daisy chain Dunk back in for Sheffield United for something like Palmer or Solanke, or someone of that ilk, based on how the fixtures fall. But at the moment, he just looks outstanding player. Watkins. Oh, Jason Manners says Sky just announced the March picks. The March TV picks. They've just announced them. Jason said, very very timely that we can't actually go and have a look. You can have a look, Paul, if you want, while I prattle on for a minute. Ollie Watkins, 89.6%. Massively rewarded owners on Saturday. Superb. Saliba, 84%. Still, I'm quite surprised by that personally. I thought a few would have moved him on. I expect he'd be moved on a fair bit this evening. Rodri 80% as expected. Van Dijk 78. Gross 60%. Smashed it on the weekend, didn't he? And a few people took him out on Thursday, and they're definitely regretting that one. Saka 53. De Bruyne already on 40%. Solanke 35. Lewis Dunk 34. Owen 31. Before we go down a bit further, just looking at Man City, Foden's already in 28.9% of teams. Alvarez in 22. Haaland already in 17. Thoroughly expect Haaland to go up to 85% in top 1K.
I'd say something like that. Yeah.
Jason's just said Chelsea versus Newcastle on a Monday in March.
Well, this is nice. So we'll talk about this a bit more, I'm sure, anyway. But that might be the one that if you come off Palmer, you would only miss away to Brentford and miss the blank game week. So I feel a bit fortunate to have Van Heck on my team, because provided he keeps his spot, then that's the player that's enabled moves elsewhere. Maybe like João Pedro up front. People might reconsider selling him as well.
Interesting. It sounds like, Paul, we're going to do our usual divergence. In our teams. There's always a point in the season where I just cannot sit on my hands anymore, and I run off, and then you kind of then usually claw me back and overtake me. But it sometimes depends on what happens within my benefit of making all those transfers in that period of time, doesn't it? So we will see. Trust in Man City defenders. What can go wrong? Huh?
So you did too, are you?
Don't know yet. Ake and Walker, I'm tempted by, and Edison. Don't know. And looking at the players' total points since the overhaul, I mean, not many players would have picked these up, right? Well, I say that. No, like massively owned players apart from Watkins, but Richarlison 33, Jota 29, Adebayo. I mean, outstanding. Well done to those who went with him and who stayed with him. He's been
still only got Tiernan once this season, and that was on his hat trick.
That's unbelievable. The fixtures are decent. They're home to Sheffield United on the weekend. Would you be taking him out? Yeah. I don't think I would. Home to Sheffield United.
I think he might be the one that's moving up, like, for people to get Haaland in, I'm guessing, if they don't want to get rid of Watkins, etc.
Watkins 28, Højlund 28. Pickford is the one that lots of people are talking about for the single game day. Palace and Everton on Monday the 19th. Early thoughts on that match? Have you had any captaincy coverage thoughts? If you go in Edison, I doubt you're going Pickford then, are you?
I could honestly skip it.
There's like nothing stands out, does it? Really, Palace.
If Eze and Elise
that's just
both fit, and I mean both fit,
yes,
not one
agree.
fit in isolation, I would be much more tempted to back a Palace player,
because they're home.
But you're right.
They're home to Burnley the following Saturday as well, which is reasonably decent fixture for and then hop off. But yeah, it's not. There's nothing exciting really. I say Elise and Eze. Elise and Eze are the two reasonably exciting, rather than that. Martinelli 25, Carlton Morris again from Luton. Two Luton forwards, and Ross Barkley is there as well. Three Luton players, attacking players in the top 10 is pretty sensational.
Like, this is a non-fantasy related point, but I've never ever watched football, and I not that I particularly looked out for him, and he probably got overshadowed by some players in some teams. But I've never thought Ross Barkley looked necessarily like a superstar at any clubs before, even when he was like a young prodigy. But every time I watch Luton this season, I'm massively impressed by him. I think he's been absolutely class, been a great signing. Arguably one of the signings of the season.
Yeah. And you know what? I honestly nearly brought in Cunha last Thursday. And the only reason I never is because I would have been blocked for a Haaland move for a third spot, and that's the only reason I didn't bring in Cunha, and that is the truth. Hey ho, if my auntie had bollocks and all that.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda, Beverly Knight.
Exactly. Yeah. Any kind of shouts outs or takeaways, Paul, so far from the total
No,
points or
no,
the
like I say,
ownership?
like Ezzy's on that list, and I thought I love watching him, fantastic footballer, and I would consider getting him in if him or Elise, if both of them are in that team when they face Everton that night. That's actually a good hop off point for Cole Palmer as well. That you could move on there and chain it along that way. You almost got like a rotating captaincy requirement position, and you gain an extra fixture out of it here and there along the way as well. But yeah, I think you've kind of covered it off pretty well.
Let's look ahead to the weekend. Obviously, we've just talked about Man City, and one of the reasons why Man City players are so popular is they play first again on Saturday, so they have a 2-0 now over lots of teams, which is why they're so popular. They play home to Everton. We'll get to see the team sheet too, which is interesting because you may even decide to switch one round or maybe even pile on even further if they,
If you've got an injury, I
who
guess
know
if something comes with press
exactly.
conference, somebody's injured.
Exactly, if you get an injury. Wolves and Brentford, Tottenham, Brighton, Luton, Sheffield United, Liverpool, Burnley, Fulham, Bournemouth, Nottingham Forest, Newcastle. So that's 7 games on the Saturday, 5 3 o'clock games. Assuming Haaland stays fit, all aboard Haaland. I think that's where we kind of are. Liverpool and Burnley's an interesting one. Salah will be back at some point, but we're just not sure kind of when. He's been injured as well, right? So he's going to be kind of eased in as well as Haaland has been. So not really much to talk about there. Sunday, West Ham, Arsenal, Villa, Man United. We just talked about this. Probably think that Watkins is going to be the most popular and probably the best captain there as well. And next Monday is when we just touched on now, Palace and Chelsea, which will be podding just before that. And as usual, I'll be saying, yeah, skip. But when we talk about it, I'll be saying, yeah, but what? Look at
Unless you're taking Cole Palmer out, you'll have Cole Palmer.
Look at Jared Brand. Oh yeah, we're not talking about that one. What were we talking about? Oh, Palace and Everton. Oh, ignore me. Palace and Everton in a couple of weeks' time. Yeah, we'll have Palmer for that one, won't we? Before Chelsea then play Man City before they do blank, and obviously because they are playing in the EFL Cup final one after. Any stands?
So that Palmer, based on that news, then that Palmer move does make even more sense because you will miss the one game that's on the Saturday, but because they play Newcastle on the Monday night, even if you're not captaining them, you're captaining a Newcastle player. That seems like a sensible time to go back and pick them up.
You fancy De Bruyne over a defender then, quite comfortably over Walker.
Something about Walker that I just can't bring myself to get him in this game.
What's the
or any game really?
What's the passing stats like against Brentford? We good against Everton, I'm guessing, and Chelsea.
I think the two centre halves comfortably pick up passing. So I think Diaz and Ake will pick up passing in this game.
I think they will in this game, but I don't fancy Diaz to hold his place with kind of Stones back. I do think there'll be a low rotation. And we all have to expect this. It's just if as you said, if they play 4 out of 5 and they play well and get some really good results, this is where the points are, and it's a tough old.
De Bruyne was close. I don't think he picked up, but he was close to bonus. Was he on 3 tackles something like that last week? I should probably come in. I should come in better equipped than that.
Absolutely. Interesting. Okay.
I do, and it's, as I say, I'm not a massive advocate of them in fantasy formats. I'll hold them for the 5 games, and then I will likely get rid of them. But as money is no object right at this moment in time, I'm pretty happy to have him in my team, knowing that his ownership's going to be pretty sizable, and I don't want to drop all the rank that I've made up recently.
So, all the questions we had this evening were all around kind of Man City, who to bring in, how many to bring in, and who to take out. In summary, there's probably a couple of ways of kind of looking at this. You can probably be pragmatic, which is, it sounds like you're kind of thinking about, which is to have enough to take advantage, but not go overboard. Is that fair to say?
That's a good summary of my thoughts and position.
Yeah. And there's the kind of Hail Mary approach, which is maybe what I'm doing. I'm not entirely sure. I really need to think about this next hour or two on what I'm going to do.
You're not going to be polishing in your snooker cue or whatever it is. Whatever it is that you're off to do.
Is that a euphemism? I will when I see that City lineup. Yeah, I really need to think about it, about how many, but also who. Like, you know, De Bruyne over Walker for me is tough in this format. It's not tough in other formats. It'd probably be De Bruyne all day, but in this format, it's a bit different. So really to think about it. Jason is just as well.
Is Brentford away from home a good defensive fixture?
Probably not,
well?
but they're nailed for passing, right? They are nailed for passing, and this is it in every game. They you know, they're going to get 4 to 5 points as a minimum in these games. Whereas I've just brought in Bowen for 2-pointer, 2-pointer, or 2-pointer, 1-pointer, whatever it was. You know, it's like I kind of like it when you're guaranteed points. And anything else is a bonus. You know, Ake could keep a clean sheet. He could, you know, he's good for a goal as well, right? So this is where the upside comes in. So the one side, as we kind of talked about. Interestingly, Jason Manis has just said in March, no shitty single games either, which makes me even more thing to go all in. You don't have to wiggle around. Yeah. So Paul's sounds like he's going to play a reasonably pragmatic, attack it, but not go overboard approach. I think I'm going to go a little bit more, just because I don't. There's no well, I say there's no downside. There's obvious downside to you're using lots of transfers, obviously, but there is also, I think, massive upside, and a big part of this game is looking for that upside, right?
I wonder come tomorrow. I'm going to get Ederson, and I wonder come tomorrow if I'm going to be in a position where I'm cheating or loathing a Man City clean sheet.
Yeah, exactly. And
I don't think their effective ownership is going to be over 100. So I think
in defence, I'd probably agree with you there. I probably agree with you there. But well, I know. No, I don't know actually. I reckon it'd be like 110.
Do you know what De Bruyne's ownership is? Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I know that you're not I fear the ownership kind of guy, but he's at 40%. I reckon his ownership before tonight, so they're not depending on like how he scores, because I know that factors in it. I reckon that goes over 60 before kickoff.
Yeah, I think the thing that which factors in for me for De Bruyne as well, he's coming back from injuries, being eased in as well. You know, when he scored the 4 goals towards the back end of a couple of seasons ago, whenever it was, he's firing on all cylinders, right? He's absolutely fit as a fiddle. He's been eased back in. I expect him to go off again reasonably early. Personally, I don't expect him to play. It's going to be a very, very physical game against Brentford. And I think De Bruyne and Haaland will both see sort of, 65, 70 minutes and go off. Not that they can't do a lot of damage in that time, obviously, but that's what I kind of expect. Anyway, I think we've talked that to death. Best of luck for everyone for whatever you decide. But for those who are asking all season, where do I find my edge? How can I get ahead? This is one opportunity. There will be others, but Man City are not, very likely not going to have a 5-2 over teams, again this season, which is kind of the way I'm looking at it. Whereas Paul, who's a much more kind of, sensible player than I am, is just, playing it for what it is. I'm going to attack it. I think I'm going to have a go, even though I wasn't 45 minutes ago. Paul, you've talked me into it. Clever boy.
I'll ask you one last question, Fergi, if you don't mind.
Go on.
Out of, if you could afford to lose both Saliba and Saka, which one would you lose first? Formation out the window, whatever.
Saliba. Personally. Again, it's just upside. It's, he gets 4 or 5, he'll get the odd 10. And while Saka is consistent, Saka has got a haul in him, right? He hauled about a month or 2 back. I think a lot of people were on Saliba, but it was Saka that got the big haul. I think he got like goal and assist or 2 goals or something like that. Out of the 2, I would use Saliba, but yeah, tempted to get rid of both, which will obviously come back and be extremely painful. That'll do for us, I think, this evening. Paul, final question. What's your favourite? What's your favourite movie of all time?
I like The Shawshank Redemption growing up. And also, I'm a Stephen King fan. I like Green Mile. Green Mile is one of my favourite films. More recent, so I'd say The Shawshank Redemption, favourite movie of all time. My most famous recent movie, which kind of go under the radar a little bit, but
Barbie?
I would suggest, I'd highly recommend it for those that haven't heard of it or haven't watched it before. It's called The Devil All the Time.
Oh, okay. Never heard that.
It's not a horror film. It's more like a thriller, but it's very good. What about you?
I wrote Shawshank. I know it's an incredibly boring answer, but it was. I also think it's the time of life you watch it. I think if people watched it now, they may think, oh, it's all right. But of its time, it was just ridiculously, absolutely fantastic. And it's got everything you want from a movie. But yeah, I've got Shawshank.
Do you want a wee bit movie trivia?
Yeah, why not? Why not?
So, do you know the film Stand By Me?
Yes.
So, the reason why it's called Stand By Me is because Kiefer Sutherland was playing the guitar and teaching River Phoenix how to play the guitar on set, and they were playing Benny King's Stand By Me, and the director, because that was not what the original screenplay was, and the director picked up on that, and that's what I know they play the song through the movie, but that's why the movie's called that.
That's insane. Really interesting. I've got a couple of similar ones there actually. Did you know that Kevin Costner advised the director to use the Bodyguard song as the actual song?
Oh no, I did not know
What's
that.
the song again? If I that one. It was Kevin Costner because it was a Dolly Parton.
I will always love you. I will always love you.
It was a Dolly Parton song, I think, and Kevin Costner said, "You want to make this a massive hit and get her to sing this hit." And another one, which was fairly interesting, was only this the other day, is really it's probably mega obvious, and I've forgotten the other one. It was that good.
So you're not going to talk to us about Saltburn, are you?
I haven't seen it. What was the other one? Very interesting as well. Never mind. I love Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, Josh Fares. I watched all the Lord of the Rings in the cinema and they absolutely blew me away. Glenn Murray said Wizard of Oz, and Alan Jago says Seven, also a really, really good film. Yeah. I love Snatch as well. It's one of my favorite films. Yeah, whenever Snatch is on, I just have to watch it.
Is anything that Stephen Graham's ever been in bad? That's
good. That's a really good point. I'm trying to think what the film was. It was a bit of a really interesting movie. Yeah, and I can't. Gone.
It's so interesting. You forgot.
Oh, I had it in my head, and I thought of the second one. Not the first one's gone, but it was. I'll message you anyway. That is it from us for this week. Oh, and if you haven't seen Traitors, anyone watch Traitors. Quite possibly the best TV I've ever seen in my life. I would say.
You know the guy Paul from the Traitors was on Deal or No Deal.
I didn't.
He got 10 pence.
Fantastic. I didn't, but what a program to talk about gripping. My goodness me. That is it from us for this week. As usual, thanks to all those watching and listening. Your continued support is much appreciated. I love it how we still got like 180 people watching us talk about films. Webby says The Departed. This is the real content, everyone. This is what this show is all about. We talk about with Sky at the start, just for the hell of it.
They say Departed.
The Departed, yeah.
So I watched The Departed in the cinema and only recently went back and watched it. And it's like I had forgotten the whole thing and I watched it again. It was like watching a new movie. It was brilliant. Yeah, like so good.
I've watched The Departed. I can't remember which bloody one it is. Is it to do with the neighbours? No, obviously not. What am I thinking of? Anyway, thank you so much, Paul. Where can people find you?
On Twitter at Paul McAnulty1, MCANULTY. I've got a new microphone stand, by the way. It is bobbleheads, Only Fools and Horses bobbleheads, and you press the briefcase down and he falls through the bar.
Very good, mate. I like that. Very, very good. Gary Plant says Pulp Fiction, another absolute cracker. And Glenn Murray says, cheers, guys. Glenn has had enough of us. He wants us to go off, I think. I'm only joking, Glenn. I'm still trying to think of that thing desperately before we go. My handle on Twitter is @FFH_Fergie. If you like what you watch, please press the like button. Remember to subscribe in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast version and leave some comments. We'll be back next week to preview Sky Game Week 28. In the meantime, we hope Man City crush it and you have a great Game Week 27. Goodbye for now.